Hi, I'm Mark Sleboda, and this is The Real Politik. Nearly a year old, NATO's proxy war on Russia in Ukraine looks set to only intensify in the coming year, as the West backed Kiev Putsch regime is now completely reliant on the US and other NATO states for arms, ammunition, funding, training, intelligence, C4ISR, sending thousands of mercenaries, special forces and commandos, and even military planning and wargaming out its military strategy. A proxy and finger puppet in every sense of the word. The entire military and economic might of NATO is solidly behind and propping up the Kiev regime in the conflict with Russia. And yet, rhetorically, Western leaders continue to claim, smirks on their weaselly lips, that they are not parties to the conflict, even as they send their own main battle tanks into the fray and openly admit to helping the Kiev regime attack Crimea. But as the Kiev regime's military forces suffer horrible casualties and are forced to retreat in the east, Western leaders and politicians are noticeably starting to sound desperate and hysterical in their anti-Russian rhetoric. And finally, one of them, the rabidly pro-American hegemony, anti-Russian war hawk, and European neocon, the German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock, has, as Newsweek's headline admits, said the quiet part out loud, that the West is directly at war with Russia in Ukraine.
Yes, we have to do more to defend Ukraine. Yes, we have to do more also on tanks. But the most important and the crucial part is that we do it together and that we do not do the blame game in Europe, because we are fighting a war against Russia and not against each other. Thank you.
Baerbock was speaking in English to the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. She said, "We are fighting a war with Russia." She was speaking not just on behalf of Germany, but of the entire EU and the collective West. And she was applauded by the other representatives of that Council of Europe for saying so. Immediately, the German and other EU governments started to spin and walk back her words, accusing Russian media of distorting them for propaganda purposes. But let's be clear. Everyone knows that Baerbock only said out loud not only what they all really think and believe, but what they are actively doing. When afterwards, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg lamely again attempted to claim that NATO was not really a party to the conflict in Ukraine, not engaged in a proxy war against Russia, the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova eviscerated him with dismissive contempt in reply. Do you really believe that your own citizens of the EU and NATO are total morons? Do you believe that as you send tanks which require maintenance, you are still not party to the conflict? Who are you then? Explain. Just invent some new term to identify yourself. Citizens of NATO states should know their bloc is fully engaged in confrontation with our nation, and this confrontation is escalating. And then she added, if we add this to Merkel's revelations that they were strengthening Ukraine and never intended to fulfill the Minsk agreements, then we are talking about a war against Russia that was planned in advance. Don't say later that we didn't warn you. But at least one Western leader, Croatian President Zoran Milanovic, showed a glimmer of sanity. He said, now the German foreign minister says we must be united because, I quote, we are at war with Russia. I didn't know that. Maybe Germany is at war with Russia, but then good luck with that. Maybe this time it turns out better than it did 70-odd years ago in World War II. He also dryly noted that tanks, Russian or American, burn all the same, that the world is slowly sliding into World War III, indeed it might have already begun, and that regarding Baerbock's apparent declaration of war on Russia, that he had never seen such madness. Madness indeed. This whole smarmy, smirking, rhetorical pretense that NATO is not really at war with Russia because they are using a thin Ukrainian proxy is getting old. Two can play that proxy game. Russia could very easily give its own Ukrainian allies from the Donbass, Kherson, or Zaporozhye the ability to conduct strikes into NATO countries, to NATO bases in Poland and Romania, where weapons are being assembled and troops trained to kill them. And then smugly reply back that Russia is just providing support, that we are not a party to that conflict. Be very careful here, Germany. Have you forgotten the lessons of World War II so soon? The outcome of this conflict may indeed now be in question. It may not end in Kiev after all. It may, once again, only find its end in Berlin.